So, well, I try and figure out what's going on in the world. I try and see where we're headed and try to work it out, like what's going on here. And to be honest, I don't know. I really do not know. I know that there's an inevitable move towards the transhumanism, more into the metaverse for us to, to merge with the AI, if you will, hive mind, to actually move into the Matrix, which I want to do a talk on as well. That obviously the Matrix was a prophecy and things like that. So we definitely are moving in that direction. And there's obviously a divide and conquer going on here. There's obviously there's a lot going on. There's everything under the sun. I mean, if we understanding like the time wave zero of what Terence McKenna, was pointing at, is that the past repeats itself. I think he said the mushroom said to him once, that did you know that one day or is made up of the last 2 or 3 days or something like that. I'm getting it very wrong, but that history repeats itself in different forms, and then it keeps on repeating and getting more and more intense. The more the novelty increases. So there's everything that's happened in the past and more happening in every moment at a much more of an alarming rate and degree, right? And you must excuse me, I'm rather tired. It's late in the evening. I don't find it an opportunity to speak during the day, to do these recordings, I suppose. And so just if you can please bear with me. But yeah, so there's a lot of novelty going on. There's a lot of everything and anything, and it's all happening now, and it's just accelerating every single moment. So there is a lot going on. It's really incredible. I do think that there is, again, at least the light in the dark. That's always at play. It's definitely at play. That's happening, and so there is the light that's getting brighter. And there is a transformation that's happening and an evolution that's happening with the light. I really do feel that we are in some kind of birth canal, right? But where to from here, I have no idea. How's it going to work? I have no idea. And the darkness is also very much at play. I really feel that the darkness it's obvious this is really, the darkness is always the war on consciousness. It's always on the war on the light. And I think a lot of what's going on now, even a lot of the so-called truthers, right? The mainstream truthers, in a way, they're not potentially talking about the spiritual evolution that's going on, the cosmic, evolution or transmutation that's going on, the metamorphosis that's going on. They're not really speaking about it. I mean, a guy like, Mr. Russell Brand, 2 million views on one video, is not really talking about this. And I mean, he is, talking a voice for the people and things like that. But these guys aren't really touching on this at all, right? And seeing all of what's going on from a metaphysical point of view. There are other truthers. They're not obviously as well known, if you want to call them truthers or whatever it is, mystics to a certain degree, or just wayseers or something like that there are, and but it's very, very few. It really is very few. And so we're very, very caught up on the surface of things. We're very, very engaged in all the reactions, in all the instigations, that's coming through the media. We're really being triggered on so many levels. I'm saying even as conscious individuals, and we're deeply, deeply involved and engrossed in this narrative of where is this headed? Are we waiting for the next lockdown? Are we waiting for the next, booster? Are we waiting for what's happening with this? Is it nefarious? Is it nefarious? A lot of people are saying that it is, right? A lot of people are saying that it is, and it's but I can see that a lot of people that are saying it's nefarious are also they're disingenuine. I can feel that there's a lot of people pushing the nefarious narrative, and I don't understand why that is. I mean, this is a whole mystical, like it's deep, it's a cult. It really gets deep, in a way. But for me, like I've spoken before, I don't trust establishment, and I don't think establishment is out for our best interest. But it never really has been. I think establishment, is part of that dark. That's what it's there to do, is to keep the light, especially during these times, especially now. So, like, what's going to happen? Is it going to be mandatory? Is it going to be forced, the needle, right? Is this ever going to end? I heard, this is a very clever, I'm saying, I didn't think about this, but a woman called in and she said, look, I've had my needle. She called into one of these places that offer the needle, and she said, look, I've had my shot, and I just want to know that I can still pass it on, the V. And the lady, the nurse, said yes. This is a legit call. You can hear. I can feel it's when it's legit and when it's not legit. She says, okay, so I can pass it on. I can still get sick. She says, yes, but not terribly sick. Okay, fine. So I can still catch it and I can still pass it on. Yes. Okay, fine. So my colleagues in my office who haven't had the needle, they can also catch it. They can get more sick and they can also pass it on. Is that right? So she says, yes. So she says, but here's the problem, is that my colleagues who haven't had it are testing themselves. They have to test themselves 3 times a week. So if they have it, then they know that they need to quarantine. She said, but I've had it, so I don't need to test. But at the same time, I can still have it and be passing it around, but I don't need to test because I've already had the needle. So it's safer for the people that haven't been. The people who are actually more safer in the bigger picture are the people that haven't had the needle, which makes complete utter sense. 100% that makes sense. I thought that was brilliant. That really is brilliant. That's remarkable, And well, obviously most of the majority don't think this way. I mean, we do find it very suspicious. Now here in South Africa, it's we're heading into the 4th wave. When everybody predicted this, I'm saying even the guy on the street, like the guy in the Uber that I speak to in August, they were saying they're going to hit us in December. They hit us last year in December. They're going to hit us this year in December. Just around Christmas, they're going to hit us again. And everybody knew it. It's not a surprise. You don't have to be some kind of, doctor or expert or professor or immunologist or whatever, I don't know, disease expert to figure this out. It's obvious, right? And that's what I'm saying. And so, bang on the money, exactly. All of a sudden, the numbers are increasing daily, in the middle of summer as well. It's like, okay, so do me a favor. Anyways, for me personally, something's amiss, something's afoot, and the emperor wears no clothes, and whatever it is, Pfizer and is it Moderna, I think, make $1,000 profit every second. So let's just figure that. I mean, if you try and work that out in 1 hour, how much money they make, right? So I don't know. But what's happening with this? I don't know. I don't know what the plan is. Some people say there is a plan. It's not about, it's not just benign, the needle. There's something about it and whatever it is. And I've heard of people that have had these adverse effects. I've heard of terrible, shocking, and I've watched some documentaries that people have put together, and I've seen lists and names and things like that. And I've seen people like, on the soccer fields, on the football fields, on the tennis courts, high performing athletes just, have just sort of faint and just sort of collapse and whatever it is. I've seen all of this stuff. It's like, oh, what's going on here? So, okay, so there is a bit of something, people say, look, you can have, it's very rare or something like that. Is it rare? What are the long-term situations? I don't know. I really don't know. Some people talk about a zombie apocalypse of some kind. So people are talking about anything can possibly happen in regard. We don't know. Mr. Gates himself was watching something else here. He talks about this was number 1. Now we're going to have number 2 come up. This is small time. This one, the big one is coming, and I've heard that from Soros. I've heard it from who are these blokes? A list of them, and they all say, "Oh, wait," that they always manage to sort of prophesize and get these things, get these things right before they happen. Who knows how they do it, But then again, if you believe that, so many things that are just so really unbelievable. Japan, for example, not locking down and only having like 18,000 cases or something like that, and America happens to be the number one country in the world with the worst amount of cases, like the whole world. 190 countries just managed to all lock down at the exact same time. Like the whole world just came together with all the same protocols, and everybody just jumped on board. It's like, and the countries that didn't, I'm not quite sure which ones exactly, but I know in Tanzania that the guy didn't, the president and all, he's not alive anymore. And I think the Seychelles, I'm not sure it was the Seychelles or something like that, but again, he also died, and he also refused to follow. So also something strange happened. Anyway, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what's going on, but I mean, when you're making $1,000 a minute of, whatever it is, did I say a minute or a second? See, I'm tired now. Regardless, it's still a hell. I think it was a second. Yeah, it was a second. So, you got, but you know what, I'm being sarcastic in many ways. So there is that, and there is some kind of digital, probably currency or something like that that's coming, and there's big stuff. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about everything. I go through. I have my days. I don't know what's going on with me, to be honest. Sometimes, like in my relationship with Leanne, one day I don't want to be with her. I can't stand her. I feel sorry for myself. I can't even look at her. Whatever it is. And then a day later, I feel I'm missing her. I want to be around her. I can't get enough time with her or something like that. Some days I'm so pissed off that this business is here from the house. And then other times, this essential massage business. And then sometimes I'm okay with it. And it's like, just, I don't know. I go through so many mixed emotions, so many mixed feelings that, to be honest, I don't know what's popping for me anymore. I don't know but I'm giving it all space. That's what I'm saying, which I'm trying to get to. I'm giving it all space. And that's what I think we've got to do in our own lives, because we don't know what's going on, right? I mean, we've got to do our best. We can't just become nihilistic. I'm not talking about I'm being nihilistic or anything like that. I think I've gotten to an okay place for myself where my diet is relatively okay. My exercise, well, I do my walking. I could do a bit more in my stretching, whatever it is, and I'm still growing. And so I'm not backpedaling. I'm not taking steps back here in that way. I don't think so. I got to attend a family reunion this coming weekend in Johannesburg. It's something that I have to do. It was a choice that I don't really have a choice about. But I'm doing it, and I'm going with it, and I don't know. I'm just kind of trying to make space for what is showing up and how I'm feeling on the day, and where, I don't know what, like with this pet food, I go back and forth. This raw pet food that I'm doing, raw pet for cats and dogs. Some days I'm very ambitious about it. I'm very motivated. Other days, like the next day I'm like completely indifferent. I'm like, oh, so what? I mean, it's taking so long. The packaging that I've ordered is taking weeks to come. The printer wants to rob me from doing some artwork. It's like ridiculous. What am I getting myself into? Do I have the patience? Do I have the resources to work with people? Is this even necessary? On the one hand, because I wanted to replace the pet food with Leanne's, essential massage place, but then, the pet food doesn't seem to. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's happening. That's the bottom line. I don't know what's happening. Will there be some messianic, sort of filling the skies with some kind of projection or something like that pretends to be the savior of, humankind and the future sort of overlord, and, You know what I mean? Potentially, I know I'm jumping around here, but what I'm saying is that anything is possible, from the darkest of dark to the lightest of light. That's where we're living in. It's extremes. It's absolutely extremes. Will there be a reduction in the population? I gather so. I've mentioned it before. I gather so. I mean, it just seems realistic. 2.3 billion people are starving right now. That's not sustainable. While you got obesity on the other level, when people are dying mostly in the Western world from heart attacks because of their diet, it's completely upside down. It's not sustainable. But is there going to be who knows? Is there going to be a messianic, whatever awakening? Anything's possible. I mean, I'm not talking about like a mass awakening. There will be no mass awakening, and there won't really be a revolution. I do think people are standing up now, more so than ever, right? Those that are willing to. I mean, in Australia, for example, they estimated 200,000 people at a protest, But then again, in order to stop these protests, all they need to do is like switch off WhatsApp or one of these, social media networks that people are sort of, making their plans to meet up on and scheduling the dates. And then that's it. What are you going to do? I don't know. You declare martial law or something like that. You get at some of these protests for someone to get very violent or something like that, but you set it up and then this event happened and we're like, no more protesting whatsoever, and that's it. Again, we're playing. It's on their turf. It's on their home ground. I mean, it's their. That's it. We are not self-sustainable. We haven't invented our own way of things. We are reliant on their system, right? That is owned by Amazon and Facebook and Netflix and you just about name it. The pharmaceutical companies. We are heavily owned by these people. And so they got us by the short and curlies. They got us by the balls, as George Carlin was. I've said this so many times. So, but that's from that side. So people will wake up and they will still, what's happening in other countries and, with protests. But what will come of it? Who will know? The thing is that everybody's got to be on board. The police are got to be on board. The soldiers, not so much the politicians, but the people who would enforce it legally on the streets. They have to down their tools. They have to down their and say, look, are we joining? That's it. That's the only way it will work. But it can't work. It just for so many. Anyway, I don't want to get involved in that. It's not my shtick, and time will tell. But I don't think there is a mass awakening to the idea that we live on a cusp of a new dawn. I'm saying of a new era, a new spiritual time that we are in. Moving into a new age, if you will, in a sense, not the new age, but a new age of type of again transformation. I think many people are completely out of touch with that. If we had the likes of Terence McKenna still around today, many more people would be, more so sort of tuned in to this vibration, if you will, or something like that. There would definitely be more of an awareness of this, but there isn't, because again, the general narrative is that is one of a boot on the neck, basically. So I don't think majority of people are not happy with the status of things. Majority of people are not liking presidents. They're not liking the media. I think there's only very few people. I think there's like extreme leftists and things like that, or whatever it is, but it's not most. I think majority of people will say that it's a freak show, it's a circus, so we don't know what's going on. I think majority of the people that have followed all the protocols of the sea, would still say, majority would say this is just too much. They've just gone too far, or whatever it is. Sure, we'll still take the boosters and whatever it is, but they're mishandling. Like my brother will say, look, he's very pro the needle. He says that people should not be forced to take it, but he says it should be like wearing seatbelts. It's like you should be responsible enough to wear a seatbelt when you drive. You should be responsible enough to take it. And this is what he said. This is somebody he refused in the beginning, but now he had to take it because he's got all this pressure. I mean, when his children want to go back to school, if they're going to school and they say, look, it's time for your children to be needled, say, well, what can I do? You know, I'm in for a penny, in for a pound. There's nothing I can do. And so, you know, I'll come back to what I'm saying. But you see, even with my talks, I do so many talks at the time that I do the talk. I think this is a great talk. I listen to it 3-4 days later. I think to myself, what was I thinking to even think that this could possibly be a talk. So I'm all over the show. Anyway, so with my brother, he says, look, the tyranny that's going on in Australia, because he lives in Australia and he's an Australian, he says it's ridiculous. So majority of people are all saying it's ridiculous, but that's it. So they're fighting against it. But who knows what's to come? Have the powers that be shot their load? Excuse me saying that, but I'm saying have they gone too far? That even the next thing that they kind of pull up, people will be like, no ways we're falling for this one now, or whatever it is. Or not maybe that like you're lying about the sea, or you lied about that, but more so like we know that whatever you're doing has ulterior motives behind it. You see, that's what I think is very interesting. It's like, my brother will be like, oh, come on, this is too coincidental. Another V that's coming now, or this that's happening now. Like, it's just, it's like kind of once bitten, twice shy. What's it? Fool me once, as President Bush said, shame on you. And I think a lot of people, that is the awakening that's going on. It's like you can't pull the wool over our eyes. But I think the establishment, I think the powers that be knew that they are getting to this place, and they're going to maybe work it in their favor. They work so many things in their favor. Like the Carl, what's his name? The Carl Reese or something, whatever it was, the situation with I didn't even know anything about it, with the guy and the gun, and whatever, he shot 2 people in self-defense. Is that his name? And they twist everything and they use it in their favor, right? They twist it all. So what am I really saying there? I don't know. But they do that. People are awake to this whole woke movement. They see the like, in Australia, they'll see that. But again, a lot of people are falling for the whole climate story. The whole Greta Thunberg, a lot of people are falling for. A lot of people are hook, line, and sinker. And again, the media will show you a protest of her and her friends, and it will become worldwide news. But then you have 200,000 people protesting in Australia, not far down the road, or a different country, and it gets no media coverage. But what will people believe? How will they? What will they have the wool pulled over their eyes? What will it take? It's a very interesting situation. So, but I don't know. You see, it's a very interesting time. Again, the masses hold all the power, but have the masses been so demoralized and disconnected from their true essence and the authentic self that they don't know, they only know how to be externally governed. They don't know how to navigate themselves in this life. They don't know how to think. They've been too badly imprinted and social engineered. They're too part of the matrix, and the matrix mind, whatever it is in the super ego that they dialed into all the time. So what will take place? I mean, the demoralization is going on such high levels, which is ridiculous. I mean, this Travis Scott story or whatever happened there was an absolute awful incident. But it's amazing. People will go to the stadium and people will see what's going on. And they speak about that it was some kind of, ritual or something like that, which was obviously was. There's no question about it. I mean, you can feel it, you can sense it, you can see it. It's there to see, but most people don't even recognize it. So sometimes I think there's a lot of people who are awake, in a sense, to what's going on and the dark, nefarious agenda that's happening. But where does that power lie? And how many? And is this maybe just a whole dark night of the soul for humanity? And will they wake up? And what does it mean to wake up? Is it just to wake up to the Truman Show? Is it just to wake up to the Matrix? That you've been living in a dream world or something like that? That doesn't help much. that helps very little at all. I mean, that's the process, obviously. That's, Alice falling down the rabbit hole. You realize your religion. This is too much of a tall order. I don't know. We have no idea. It's so complicated. It is absolutely so complicated. You get hardcore religious people that that are still very ingrained in their religious beliefs, like, to extreme degrees. But in certain countries, I mean, like, I know my father is a religious man, but I mean, he's become a lot more, it's not as in, he's not as committed, but there are people that are, who knows what's going on. I don't know. It really is an interesting time. Do I have hope in humanity waking up and turning this around? No. There's just no ways for the most of humanity. I don't know, maybe there'll be different groups that will split off into different, I don't know, where are people going to go? Different classes of people. Like I'm saying, not the most conscious or mystical of people, but the more like awake and and I don't want to be part of the system anymore type of thing, and homeschool their kids or their children. I like to use the word children if I can. I don't know. But again, is it a dark night of the soul where humanity reaches rock bottom and then, like I'm saying, learns from that, because that's the way how consciousness also works? But I don't know. I don't have a clue what's going on, to be honest. Mosquito. I don't have a clue what's going on, but it's happening, and it's happening now. And tomorrow could be a day that makes today completely unrecognizable, because something can happen so big, so massive, so large, that it can even put this whole CV story, the whole BLMs, the whole whatever, it'll forget about it. It's all becomes insignificant in a way, like not a big deal, really not a big deal. I mean, how many things became not a big deal in the world when CV came around, right? So these things are going to keep on happening, and every time it happens, it's kind of like we're being initiated into further sleep, if you will, or further initiation process into sometimes, the dark agenda, into the matrix, further into the matrix. Because these people have got a plan. They've had a plan for a very long time. And if you sit down with them, they'll show you the plan, whether it's a 2030 plan or 2050 plan, they'll show you what they've got in plan. But then what do you say? Well, can there be a solar flare that can wipe out, and then their plan goes to shit? There's so many things. What happens if the good aliens or whatever it is show up and be like, okay, it's enough, you've gone too far, we're taking over here, buddy? Who knows? Are there maybe the bad guys, I'm saying the presidents of the world and all these people setting themselves up to make themselves look bad, because then they're going to bring in, they're playing the bad cop, and then they bring in the good cop, but it's really both of the same team, and the good cop being some kind of, again, messianic figure who comes and points out and says, hey, look what these guys were trying to do to you. Let's show you the real science of what's going on here, that only 5 million people have so-called died from this thing. Only 5 million in 2 years' time worldwide. That's it. Only 5.1 million. It's nothing. It's so small. Hello, wake up. Is that what they're doing? Like a guy like Mr. Boris Johnson, who looks like such a clown. Is he a deliberate clown? Trump, a clown. Nobody of nobility, of integrity, of honor. I'm sorry to say, Mr. Biden, what are they doing? Why do they pick such clowns? World leaders, or whatever it is. China, these, of Putin, these people, it's like, characters on steroids of some kind or whatever. It's a circus, it's a freak show, it's the most bizarre situation, I was saying to my brother, imagine that you arrived on we discovered a extraterrestrial life on another planet, and we say to them, so how's things going on planet Earth? They say, well, we're having a pandemic at the moment of whatever it is. And oh, really? It sounds quite serious. How many people have succumbed to it? Oh, 5 million. Well, in how long? That's almost like 2 years now. Oh, wow, that doesn't. And what did you do in the African countries, like, in the poorer countries or whatever it is? Did they do all the lockdowns and the social distancing and the whole washing of the hands and wearing of the masks? And they said no. So how did they fare? No, fine. I was discussing this with my brother. I was saying in Nigeria, I don't know how many people died, and it was like nothing. I think it's 18,000. I could be wrong, but it's a small number, 60,000. I mean, out of 200 million, it's a huge, huge, huge country. And then my brother will say, "Oh no, but they don't test there, so they don't know if someone died of it." And I'll be like, if you look at the figures, the annual deaths, it was actually did better than in 2019. Less percentage of people. So what's going on here? So you say to these aliens, you say, well, listen, yeah, and they ask you these questions. It's like, yeah, you're right. What happened to Australia? I think 1,800 people died, something like that, a few thousand. I don't know what it is. And this is what you did. You decided to give the needle to children who seem to have like almost like 100% recovery rate in a sense, or whatever it is. Or not only that, but you needed to die with this thing with comorbidities and the whole story. And it's just, what are you doing? And this was your only sort of solution. There was no other alternatives or whatever it is, but other people were coming with other alternatives. And what did you do? You shut them up and you banned them. And so, like, if you had to have a conversation, if you had to take yourself out and go on another planet and speak about it, not or whatever, and you'd be like, yeah, wait a minute. I mean, any single person take themselves out of this planet, go to somewhere it's very different, where it's more, rational and it's more real, whatever, authentic, and you feel that energy and you talk to them, it's been like, come on now, what's been going? And then, every single person would snap out of it. I believe every single person would snap out of it. And they would see, okay, I'm not just talking about the sea, but everything. They would be like, yeah, you're right. It's not so unbalanced. It's so whatever. Anyways, this is just a rant, I suppose. I don't know, I'm going all over the show. But the idea is not to have closure. Closure kills the heart of the mystery, as Terence McKenna would say, to not have closure on the matter, and to just, be open and go with what's going on to the degree, and try and keep in your peace and your sanity and your intuition, and come what may, in case sera, what will be. And I mean, more than that, I'm not quite sure. Obviously I am hopeful, but then moments I'm not hopeful. Some moments I feel like I'm part of the shift. Some moments I think I'm not part of the shift. It's like, this country is on its downward spiral. I mean, food resources are running out in a big way. I mean, there's not enough mouths. It's upside down. So who knows what's going on, and who knows what is to come? And have the good guys lost? Have the bad guys won? People talk about, no, all the bad guys' time is over now. They've had their time. They caused all their troubles. Now it's time for the new era. Okay, fine, but what happens to all the people that have been, sort of intoxicated with the darkness? How many of those people who have not healed their own childhood traumas and their own wounded child? And how many people are addicted to all of these substances? And what I mean? How many souls have been lost in a way? Not really lost, but how many people have been plugged in? And how many people cannot be unplugged? And what happens to them? And what kind of future do these guys in charge really want? Like, you ask yourself, these powers that be, like, what do they want? Do they just want the human being sort of plugged into, literally, like, the metaverse with a cable at the back of their heads almost, or something like that, and then, live in these virtual worlds and things like that? Like, what fun is it for them in that? What are they gaining from it? What they're gaining now is apparently, our attention. As it says, attention is more of a, what is something about more than lamb's blood, or something like that, about, attention is the real sacrifice that we give of ourselves, is our attention. technology just making noises for the sake of it. My phone here. So I don't know. What was I saying? That it's impossible to know what's going on and what will take place, and why it is that what they want, and where they're taking the world, where they're taking humanity. What's their ultimate plan, and for what spiritual gain? Or is it just for them that's I don't know. They're obviously here because they need to be the dark in order to keep the light from growing, and therefore it gives the light a resistance, and therefore the light becomes brighter when it overcomes the darkness. And it also purifies the light as well. It purifies it, it sharpens it in that way, and something or other, I don't know. And then maybe what on a soul level, what happens on this planet? I mean, the fact is that we're all living here as souls, having an experience. So how are we doing karmically on our own individual lives? How are we doing karmically? What is this? What on an individual level? How is this? A mosquito. How is it? Sorry. How is it that now for a lot of people they have the opportunities, like I've spoken about before, like doctors or lawyers, who, or let's say doctors who say, look, I don't trust this needle. I don't think it's the right thing to do, and they say I don't want to do it. Or a policeman who says, I'm not going to enforce this. I'm not going to handcuff this old lady because she's 5 kilometers outside from her house, or whatever it is, her and her husband, and I'm not going to do that. And they do this. The police do this. What about all these policemen that have been creating, all this brutality that's going on? All of these reporters, all of these media, these, whatever it is. What about all of them? All these government stooges and politicians and what about all of these people? What kind of world do they want for themselves? And saying, what karmically, on a soul level? You see, right now, there's a lot of opportunity for either massive soul development and soul growth, or further karmic debt. In a way, and I do believe there is such a thing as karmic debt. You just become more and more asleep. You lose more and more of your connection to your own spirit and soul, and you have more of a distance to travel towards your true self in that way. But again, look, you can change that massively around in one day. Like one guy who decides to really own up. Let's say there's a policeman, let's just say whatever it is, and he's been really bad. I mean, he's been, literally beating up old people and, handcuffing teenager kids, while, just really heavy abuse. And he decides, like in the movie Equilibrium, where the main character, he decides to change. I forgot his name. What's his name? Christian Bale. He's part of the clergy or something like that. He's part of the person who kills people if they have emotions, because emotions are illegal, and he burns the Mona Lisa and all of these fine arts and anything that has color and beauty and any kind of emotion, because it's illegal. And so he is that guy, and he's the best at what he does. He murders the resistance as well, the people. He feels nothing, and then all of a sudden he decides to turn it all around, and he decides to start not taking his prosium, and feeling his emotions. And it was him who overthrew the whole system. And I believe that that's a metaphor in our own lives. It's just like some of the Nazis who decided not to maybe go and, take innocent people to the slaughter, but actually help them to run away. That kind of choice, managed to pay a lot of karmic debt just with that one choice. just with that one decision, and so that is possible, and that's possible for everybody, at any given stage. So, which is very exciting. So a lot of people are met with a great opportunity, like massive. A lot of people do have the opportunity for their soul to say, I'm going to honor the way that I feel in regards to the fact that I believe that this is not genuine. What's going on with the whole CV thing, that I think it's absolutely wrong. You cannot, cut people off from each other, family members, and let the elderly sort of wither away and die, uncaringly, and sort of blow them a kiss through the window, while you're standing outside, and be like, grandma, it's ridiculous that you actually feel something is wrong, right? That you honor the way that you feel, your soul, and you return to that. And that's it. So there is massive opportunity. Again, people do not have to become completely conscious of the transformational happenings, the metamorphosis that's going on a spiritual level, humanity making a shift, a cosmic shift, a universal shift, or whatever you want to call it. You have to be aware of that. You don't have to be aware about how far the occult goes and the powers that be and the bloodlines and whatever it is or something like that. You can just honor the way that you feel, honor your integrity, right? Honor your higher self, honor your soul, honor your spirit, honor the good, okay? And you can transform massively overnight, I think, in the times that we live in. And that's why it's so neck and neck. It's so photo finish in a way, as McKenna would say, is that maybe the future hasn't been decided. Maybe it's still being decided every single day by each person, on this planet, who decides either to move closer to their soul and their truth or further from it, if you will. And that's maybe the powers that be, or I don't know what you want to call them, these people, maybe they don't actually know themselves where it will land up. I mean, they got their plans, right? They've got their ideas, but again, like Terence McKenna would say, that at the times we live in, the novelty will take the control freak by the short and curlies and throw them against the wall, right? That's what McKenna was saying. He said that what's the scariest truth is nobody's in control. That makes more sense to me now, that nobody is in control. So we might think, they have this plan, and they have this plan for 2030 and 20, whatever it is. I don't know, all of these agendas that they have, all lined up, and year by year, and on this date, astrological date, and whatever it is, and this is what we plan, and Mr. Gates will talk about, this is what we've got, and it's like, and eventually they don't have that much swing and power on a cosmic level. It's only on this, that's what some people would say. Well, because it's a cosmic shift now that's happening, and the dark is being seen, the lie is being uncovered, for what it is. There's nowhere for them to run. It's kind of like, the daytime is coming out, and the vampires have nowhere to hide. They're out in the middle of the desert, and there's nowhere, there's no caves, there's no nothing, and it's like, so now they're running for the hills, if you will. They're petrified, and so they're trying to do the best that they can to keep it as dark as possible, and to keep the energy from not shifting or something like that. They're just hoping that they can somehow put a wedge in some of the turning wheels here of the universal plan of the new dawn. I'm saying in the positive light way, and they think they can maybe sort of stop it or something or other and control it in their favor. And that's the problem, is that we give them that power, right? We give them that, and for majority we believe it, because we see, they're just so powerful. They're just all knowing in a sense. They got the advanced technology, which is years or whatever it is. Their engineering, their social engineering, their mind washing and brainwash, whatever it is, and all their no ways. Humanities forget about it. It's painted into a corner. Its wings are cut. It's been whatever. It's lying in a fetal position, in the corner of the room, and the walls are closing in or something like that. And that's it. We're done for. Like, put a fork in humanity because it's done, type of thing. Which does look at like it from that point of view, and they seem to have, they will have their cake and eat it, and or something or other. I mean, maybe that's also what they are trying to do. At the same time, maybe that's also what they are up against themselves. I'm saying the powers that be, the dark side or whatever it is, that they are saying we are trying. How could I even put this? Not necessarily to stop an evolution, but is something like that. But this is kind of what I'm saying, but even now what I'm saying, it's not even the tip of the iceberg, because it's so much more mysterious than we could ever imagine. As Terence McKenna would say, that if an alien invasion had to happen, as mysterious and crazy as that would be, he says it would be nothing in comparison to what's really going on. Or how more mysterious it potentially is. It's so much more mysterious than we can possibly understand, right? So we don't know. Is the darkness trying to anchor itself into a certain time, or whatever it is, stopping from it from shifting, holding back that many sort of beings or souls that they possibly can, so they can still have their own, use the souls to manifest their own agenda, because they can't manifest themselves. They can't really create it in a way. They've got to need, human beings to sort of believe in them, because that's again like the ego. We give our power to it. We give our power to the powers because they have no power, essentially. It's all fed off on the human soul, the human spirit, in a way. They kind of don't exist. Like vampires who need to be drinking blood. They're not renewable, in a sense, for themselves. They're not self-sustaining. So maybe that's what they need. It's like, in that movie Revolver with Jason Statham and that other guy, Ray Liotta, and he steps out of the lift because Ray Liotta's Jason Statham's enemy, and he says, "Fear me," he's got a gun pointed at Jason. He says, "Fear me," Ray says to him, I know I'm using their real names, "Fear me, fear me." And then Jason just walks right past him, and and then he just crumbles because he's not feeding off the fear. So fear is the currency here. That by fear they have control. And so maybe the more that they can control it, in a way they can keep the Truman Show going and save their little sort of space in the universe and have it not maybe shift into the lighter age. I mean, who knows? I know this sounds absolutely far out. So it's not like only if, let's say, Truman in the Truman Show was to leave, but you see, because the whole landscape is changing. It's all changing. Maybe that's what they're trying to do. Maybe they're trying to get humanity to download into a virtual world. So in the virtual world, so to speak, they're not part of the cosmic whatever it is, the shift or something like that. They don't even have to be on a planet. They can just be on some kind of, who knows? It can get as far out as possible, and you could have the people plugged in, and then you could have the thing going, and therefore the powers that be have some kind of, again, arena, their own world that they can survive in, right? And they can still feed off or whatever it is. Does that make sense? I'm saying if it's all changing and it's all evolving, right? They're looking to sort of manufacture some kind of, world where they can still carry on and save their own asses, in a way. It's like, I don't know, it's creating like a womb for themselves, in a sense, or something or other. It's their escape boat strategy in that way, in order to hang on, because they're the ones who need humanity. They're the ones who need the souls and the human beings' attention, and dedication and whatever it is. And again, to help, have the human beings, I really believe that, manifest, right? Because again, what Carl Jung said is that which we don't make conscious of, we manifest as fate. So maybe that's what they do. They put us our worst, darkest fears and whatever it is, and our own extinction in our faces all the time. So then we manifest it to a certain degree, and they keep us in that fear, and then we bring it upon ourselves. But they don't going to drive us to the absolute extinction. They want it to go as far as to a certain place, and then rescue humanity from that. And then again, so then they have their own, again, humanity believing in them or whatever it is, and securing their place in this cosmic shift that's going on, so to speak. Again, it's like they're just buckling, they what's it, down the hatches. They're preparing the cocoon, if you will, for themselves before the storm comes. And the storm is the light. Let's say the storm is the dawn that breaks upon them. So again, like vampires, they're building their home in a way, and or something or other, their house, their mansions, that with the windows shut so the light can't come in. But then again, they also need their prey to feed on, which sounds terrible or whatever it is, but that's maybe in a way what is going on. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's so much more further out than we can ever imagine. And that's where it's impossible for the monkey mind, right? And we do have the imagination. So what I'm doing now, I'm just imagining. But we can get so far out that it's to a certain degree where it's not even helpful, really. Like, what is helpful? The other day I came across a guy named Chris. He was in one of these head shops, and he was saying, he was so stoned, and he was saying such brilliant ideas, but it was like, but man, none of this is practical. It was so existential, and not existential, esoteric in a sense, and he was talking about this, and I thought to myself, cool, man, but like, how does it help me on who I am as Aaron in this pound of flesh, in a way, whatever, is walking around, as a cosmic being, believing that I'm, having to subject myself, and this is the be-all and end-all to the whole existence. Like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, how does this help me integrate my soul and my personality and my character? And how does it help me evolve? How does it help me become a better person? How does it help me improve, get closer to God? Get closer to source, get closer to truth, get closer to love. Because his ideas were so far out. I think he was talking like numerologically, if you take this planet and then whatever it is, and he was like, wow, okay, that's amazing, or something like that. I don't know, I'm just saying. So yeah, it is. It's absolutely far out. But so how's this going to help me? How's this going to help you? I mean, it is. It's interesting. It is. It's psychedelic. It's crazy. In a way, which is the cutting edge where we need to be a lot of the time, so we don't get caught up in the whole humdrumness of it, or like the woe humanity, or whatever it is, and just like the desperation of it all, the nihilism of it all, the profanity of it all, the destruction of it all, of the home, of the feminine, of the masculine, of the sacred and things like that, and we lose ourselves in that, and it's like, well, that's it. It's down. What's it? Down comes cradle, baby, and all, or something like that. Or that's it. At least we had a good run. We went out with a bang, or something. Well, it wasn't even whatever. While the world burns, or something like that. It's terrible. It's terrible. So. Again, that's why it's important to understand that it's not just a nice thing to believe in the light or believe in God, but it's your saving grace, because the darkness can be so convincing and so overwhelming, that it can really consume you and get you lost in it, and believe you me, it will, and traumatize you to such a degree that you can't believe that there is anything but just pure hell of existence through in and throughout, as above so below. It's just all absolute darkness in a way, and it's just void, and it's absolute nothing, like in the never-ending story, the nothing that just consumes everything, because people have lost their hope, so it literally just destroys everything, and eats everything up. And so we've got to be careful, and that's why there is the purpose of the light. It's not just, oh well, that's why I go to church. I mean, that's not going to cut it. That's really not going to cut it. And people believing now that, Jesus is, all you have to do is, say this, and, that he's your saving, whatever, he is your savior, and Bob's your uncle. It's not going to happen. This is so much far further out than we could ever imagine, and what it requires from us, more than we can really appreciate and anticipate, and imagine. We are like monkey minds in that way. I mean, but we do have the imagination, and we do have technology, we do have psychedelics, we do have one another that, comparing notes, coming together, seeing what the other is experiencing, what others have discovered, etc. Our own intuition being elevated and lifted by the time that we are in now, the energetic waves that are happening, and gives us a huge advantage point from previous people in the past to look now and see, well, what could possibly be happening, taking place, what is this all about, in a way, and what's the game? What is the game? What is the game that's going on here? What is the purpose of this all? What is the meaning behind it of it all? What is the significance of it behind it all? And what is your role in all of it? Because your role is the most important and significant role than anybody else's. That's what's so ironic about this all, that it's there's so much going on. It's so much bigger than all of us that we can even possibly imagine. It's beyond our wildest dreams, our greatest fantasies, our darkest, deepest fears. It's all of it. And yet, it's all about you. It has to be all about you, because if it's not all about you, then who's it about? And what's significant to you that it's about somebody else? I mean, it is to a certain degree, but it's all about you. It's handcrafted, handmade, tailored, suited, organized, set up by your higher beings, your higher angels. I don't know, something like your guardian angels, as Rudolf Steiner would say, or something like that, and you play a very pivotal role right now, with big decisions to make, in a sense. How courageous are you going to be? How brave are you going to be? How far are you willing to push the envelope, in your own life to go to get that far out, to get that psychedelic, to get that universal, if you will, in a sense? Or you're going to sort of just, I don't know, join some kind of social justice group or something like that, and party on, Wayne, party on, Garth, or something like that. Get lost in something like that, or get lost in just merely protesting or something like that. I mean, fine if that's what you called for, but there's something so much bigger and else going on. So, well, how do we live with this? How do we live with this kind of notion that these are these universal beings, and there's it's so much more bigger and profound than we can ever imagine? And then how do we integrate this? How do we live simultaneously as Thomas Anderson, in The Matrix, and Neo, the sort of savior of humankind, of the world? Because in a way, that's what you're doing to a certain degree. Your level of consciousness, your level of ability to, seek higher levels of understanding, wisdom, visions, etc. Not for, I'm saying humanity, yes, but each one of us plays a pivotal role, in the light, in the consciousness of humanity, especially at this level, especially at this time, right? Depending where your head and your heart, you play a very, very, very important role. So, but how can I sit behind my desk most of the time, play TV, so that kind of thing I'm not really saying, but it's more so about the heart. Yeah, so we all do that. I sit behind my computer, my laptop a lot of the day. I'm talking to you. I mean, I'm going to the shopping malls, I'm sitting in traffic, whatever it is. I'm replying to my mother on WhatsApp, and having to go to a family reunion. And it's in all this sort of malarkey, or this, just the sort of detritus almost, to a certain that the magic is happening, so to speak. It's It's far out. I don't quite know what I'm saying, but I think sometimes if it wasn't so mediocre in a way that we wouldn't be able to handle how extreme and intense and psychedelic and universal of really what's going on. Again, that's why I don't know if I'm making sense, you know, but I don't know how to explain that. It's like we can't be living on a shamanistic or shaman type of vibration all the time in that way. Will be too far out. It'll be just too extreme. We can't spend too much time involved in the possibilities of what might be going on. We can think about it. It's helpful, but again, we need to pay the rent. We need to, feed our cats and dogs and love our children and be present for certain people in our lives or something like that. We need to be a part, and we need to be present. I know I'm just going all over the show here. It's getting late. I also need to get to bed. You see, I have the responsibilities. I have to rest this body. I have to rest this mind. There's a lot going on. So that's why, again, I didn't upload that conversation. Maybe I will, why I don't smoke Mary Jane. Because I'll go too far out. And far out is necessary, so we don't forget, right, the bigger picture, which is so important. But then again, the biggest of pictures is you. Really is you. And the choices that you make. And how correct, and are you coming from love or are you coming from fear? And how do you feel about yourself? If you ask me what this is all about, everything that's going on, I mean, to summary, you know what I'm saying, is that it's about self-love. Because you're not going anywhere without self-love. And if you don't have self-love, you're being intoxicated. You're being possessed by the lower self, by the wounded self or the ego or the superego. You're being possessed. You're being navigated from fear, right? And you're going in the wrong direction. You're running away from your meaning. You're running away from your suffering. You're not honoring the way you feel. Like Leanne will say to me often, and my mother, like, I don't know what to do anymore. I don't know how to change or something like that. And I'll say, well, how do you feel? Honor your feelings. Honor what you've suppressed. Honor that which you don't want to look at. Give everything in yourself space. Your self-loathing, give it space. Your suffering, give it space. Your pain, well, I don't want to feel this pain anymore. Well, give it space. Don't suppress it. Don't run away from it. Don't disown it. Don't disown you. And that's it. And as soon as you disown yourself, well, you can forget about it. Something will click on the automatic, the survival mode, the survival strategies that you've been living with or whatever it is. It will run the show for you. And it will run the show, and it will need the people pleasing, the external applaud all the time, or approval, or recognition, or adoration, or whatever it is. That's what you're going to be doing. You're just running around every day, looking for the approval of others, and then also putting other people down to make yourself feel good, or something. Like you're a train wreck. You're a train wreck. If you don't love yourself, you're in pain that it's just getting worse, right? You're unconscious. You're asleep at the wheel. You're knocking over pedestrians. You're doing a lot of damage. There's a lot of carnage from it. And so self-love is to love thyself, is to honor thyself, is to respect thyself, to trust thyself. And then then you are able to actually move in a certain direction. You don't have crippling self-doubt. You give yourself the space to believe, to think, to imagine, to grow, to be wild, to be spontaneous, to be to be yourself, to fulfill your potential, to find out what it is that lies within you, to explore that, to manifest that, to bring it out, and make it shine, and so on and so forth, So it's very difficult to, having to wake up and wash the dishes again, and such a boring task to do. So just so just so like, Groundhog Day. It's just on repeat. Some of the things, it just feels like Groundhog Day, just on repeat, going around and around and around every single day. It's monotonous. It's despairing. There's no question about it. But at least at the same time, we are able to balance out the intensity of everything that's going on in the transformation that we are a part of. Because if it was like all the time, not mundane, not so much mundane, but I don't know, it would be, we wouldn't be able to process, like if you can't always be on psychedelics. Psychedelic won't last for a week, because it's too intense. You need to come down and then integrate all of that stuff, right? You need to process all of that you experienced and that went on. You can't be in that state all the time. It's not useful. It really is not useful. So for ourselves, that's why maybe we do have these moments of real sort of downness and, or melancholy. It's part of it, but part of sort of just the humdrum, the oh my word, I'm standing in a queue here at the shopping mall. Yes, I'm keeping my social distancing place. I've got my mask on, which is, all of these things are absolutely ridiculous. It's so humiliating. It's like, what the hell's going on? But within those very moments, you still have you're still part of something that is so cosmic, universal. That'll freak you out. Like if I smoked Mary Jane and stood there, I'd get freaked out because I'd look at everybody sort of in their very robotic mode, in sort of their very dulled and eyes, sort of that ghost look eyes, or like sort of far away, distant eyes. There's no very little spirit, very very little soul there. Not be to be discriminating or judging, or that's it. Looking at somebody who's just not healthy in well-being in body, mind, and spirit, and standing there and engage, and all of this. And so, what am I saying? That I would freak out because I would see the reality. And that's what happens when you smoke Mary Jane. You watch a movie, it's like you don't even see the movie anymore. You're just seeing that these people are all acting. They're all acting, and it's terrible because for me it used to ruin the movie because I was just so focused on that character, and I was like, I missed the whole storyline. And I would look at that character, I'd be like, why don't you see that this is acting? That's what Mary Jane does. It reveals what's hiding, what's going on underneath. And so that's why I can't really smoke anymore. Otherwise, it's too much for me. But we need to always remember that it's there, what's going on behind the surface, that we are part of some kind of process here. We are part of some kind of unfolding. We are part of some very, very unique, time in history, and the beginning of a new dawn. It's extreme. It's more than we could have ever bargained for, appreciate, understand, imagine, and so on and so forth, But at the same time, it's also very heartbreaking, and that's why we need to be there for ourselves in these heartbreak moments. Yeah, life is profound. Hey, it is so profound in the game we could ever imagine. Anyways, with that, I really appreciate you taking the time. It's been 1 minute and 1 hour and 9 minutes as of now, I suppose, if I don't edit any of these parts out. But I appreciate you really taking the time. Thank you for listening to me and taking part on this journey with me. And I really truly hope that I see you on the other side, and we'll look back and say, yeah, Aaron, you were chatting to me. I don't know what that other side means. Maybe it's in the afterlife, who knows? And I was sitting in my place in Oklahoma, or in Australia, in Melbourne, or I was sitting in Ontario, I think it's in Canada, I'm so tired, and I was living in my 1-bedroom apartment, could barely pay the rent, a beard down to my stomach, you know, just like I'm saying, not non-compliant to society in a way, and just feeling, but yeah. And I remember that you spoke about the magic and how that really touched me, and I kind of woke up something in me, and resonated strongly with me, and and I remember that, and now look where we are now, and how far out that adventure was, and how extreme it was, and you know, it's definitely one for the books. All right. I wish you well. God bless. Much love. Take care.